I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to welcome everyone that's here in the house physically. I'm doing my best. And could I have everybody's attention just for a minute? Because we're going live and welcome everyone that's here in the house physically. I'm doing my best. And could I have everybody's attention just for a minute? Because we're going live. I don't know what to do about that. There's an echo. So I would like to run through, for those of you who are participating in the leadership, how this is going to go, just in case anybody's forgotten anything. We're going to start with some video, and you'll be able to see the video, but our singers are going to actually, in leadership, how this is going to go, just in case anybody's forgotten anything. We're going to start with some video, and you'll be able to see the video, but our singers are going to actually, singers are going to be standing in their spots before we start, because no one will see you anyway, and you'll be there, okay? And once you finish singing, you'll sit down. I'll take the music stand and bring it out. I'll introduce our readers, and then they will read. Once you finish singing, I'll bring out the music stand for the readers. I'll introduce the evening, and I will name the readers in order, and you'll just come up, okay? So I'm asking you to remember your order. We're going to begin with Da'el, who is virtual. After Da'el, there's a musical interlude by Martin and Wendy. Then Val, after the interlude. Then Yudel. Are you here? Yudel? Yudel. Then Yudel, after Val, then Gloria. Val, Yudel, Gloria. Okay? Then another musical interlude, then Cecil, who's virtual, and Els, who's virtual, and finally Tiferet. Okay? When Tiferet is done reading, she'll take the music stand back over there and get into her position, and the other singers will join for the reprise of the song. When you're done with the song, I'll come back and give some thank yous, and then ask people to rise for the 13 attributes, sung by Harriet, followed by Kol Nidre, played on the clarinet by Dave, and that's our evening. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Okay, quickly.
On Zoom,
I don't know. Oh, Layla?
You'll see everything. The whole body. We're practicing singing and you can see your whole body. Okay. Yes.
I'm not sure. Layla might zoom in on you, but be prepared to have your whole body seen. No, like underpants. Okay. All right. I guess we're ready. So if you are needing to come on to a certain side here, make sure you're sitting on that side. Yeah.
So in about 4 minutes, the screen will turn to the introduction video, which is the book of Job being read by me and by Alexis. And then that's your cue, singers, to start to get ready, and her final line is, and wisdom, and that is understanding, or something like that. Is what it is. And then you'll need to be in position because we'll bring up Leia's camera and you'll be ready to go.
They're going to be standing there during the video.
That's a nice quick.
Okay, just tell me where you want it. Great.
כי יש לכסף מוצא ומקום לזהב יזוקו.
There is a place where silver is mined and where gold is refined.
Barzel me'afar yukach, ve'evan yatzuk nechusha.
Iron is extracted from dust and copper smelted from rock.
Parat nachal me'im gar, hanishkachim mini ragel dalu me'enosh na'u.
There in the darkness, each miner finds the limits of the earth as they search for ore.
Eretz mimena yetzeh lachem, ve'tachteha napach kamo esh.
Food grows on the surface, but below the earth is melted as if by fire.
Mekom sapir avaneha, ve'afrot zahav lo.
The mine's rocks are the place of lapis and of gold dust.
Nativ lo yad'u ayit, ve'lo shezapatu ein ayah.
No bird of prey knows the path to it. The falcon's eye has not seen it.
Lo hidrichuhu b'nei shachatz, lo ada alav shachal.
The proud beasts have not reached it. The lion has not crossed it.
B'chalami shalach yado, hafach meshoresh harim.
People set their hand against the flinty rock and overturn mountains by the roots.
Batzorot yerorim bika, v'chol yakar ra'ata eno.
They carve out channels through the rock, and their eyes behold everything precious.
Ve'ha'ochma me'ayin timatzeh, ve'eze makom bina.
But where can wisdom be found? Where is the place of understanding? No one set the value on it. It cannot be found in the living land. The Tehom, the ocean depths, say, wisdom is not within me. The sea says, I don't have it. Wisdom cannot be bartered for gold. Silver cannot be paid out as its price. It is hidden from the eyes of all living, concealed from the birds of heaven. Abaddon and death say, we have only heard of it. But the universe understands the path to wisdom and knows its source. For spirit sees to the ends of the earth and observes all that is beneath the heavens. Spirit fixed the weight of the winds and set the measure of the waters. Then Spirit saw it and gauged it. Spirit measured it and probed it. And Spirit said, your awe of this universe is wisdom, and to recognize and overcome evil, that is understanding.
ואיזה מקום בינה,
והחוכמה מאין תימצא, ואיזה מקום בינה, איזה מקום בינה, והחוכמה מאין תימצא, ואיזה מקום בינה, והחוכמה מאין תימצא, ואיזה מקום בינה, איזה מקום בינה. אין יראת אדוני היא חוכמה, וסור וסור מרע בינה. אין יראת אדוני היא חוכמה, וסור וסור מרע בינה. וחוכמה מאין תימצא, ואיזה מקום בינה. והחוכמה מאין תימצא, ואיזה מקום בינה, איזה מקום בינה. והחוכמה מאין תימצא, ואיזה מקום בינה, והחוכמה מאין תימצא, ואיזה מקום בינה, איזה מקום בינה. אין יראת אדוני היא חוכמה, וסור וסור מרבינה. אין יראת אדוני היא חוכמה, וסור וסור מרבינה. והחוכמה מאין תימצא, ואיזה מקום בינה, והחוכמה מאין תימצא, ואיזה מקום בינה, איזה מקום בינה, איזה מקום בינה, איזה מקום בינה.
Erev Tov, my friends, and Shavua Tov, Shana Tova. We're here to open our celebration of these great days of awe, our season of deathness and aliveness, with music, story, and poetry, asking and answering Job's age-old question, where can wisdom be found? During these extraordinary times, many of us have found ourselves looking for inspiration and understanding, and we've found it in so many places, some traditional in our Torah study and other book learning, in our prayer life and other spiritual practices, in music, like the beautiful setting to the Hebrew verses from Job by Deborah Sachs-Mintz that we just heard so beautifully sung by Wendy Rubin and Myrna Rabinowitz and Tiferet Welsh and Avril Orloff. We've sought wisdom in our kitchens, our gardens, our forests. We've learned from our four-legged companions. We've gained insight from our elders and our children. And in our search for meaning, we turn to one another for inspiration. 7 members of community have offered to share writing in response to this prompt. What are the new and reclaimed wisdom traditions you have drawn on over the last 18 months of the pandemic? Have you felt your ancestors come closer or explored a new tradition of your own? Has your Judaism shifted during the pandemic? During this phase of the year, as we approach Rosh Hashanah, what is the wisdom that emerges for you and that you aspire to emerge into? We are so pleased to provide a context for your teachings. In order of appearance, we'll hear from Dael Siegel, Val Dolgan, Udal Huberman, Gloria Levy, Cecil Hirschler, Els Kushner, and Tiferet Welsh.
Shavua Tov, all. And I open this with one comment, how beautiful it is to see our Bayit opened and inhabited by our precious members. And it's very sweet to be able to be with you there and here virtually this night. This evening, I touch my father's yurtzeit. He left us 28 years ago. Following my father's death, I experienced an event unprecedented, unexpected, and holy. I received a precious teaching from him. It was, there is nothing more important in our living than our loving. That is all there is. In the spirit of that precious receiving this night, I want to share and read to you a story from a book that I have been writing over the last 2.5 decades. This book is almost complete. Its title is The Goblin Secret, and it is a book about becoming and love and loss and transformation. And this story is one of the first chapters. But before I read the chapter, I want to share the meaning of the last word of this chapter. And it is wind. Translated into Hebrew, wind is ruach, which means breath, life force, spirit. In the Torah, it is God's breath of life that begins creation. And Elohim, who creates the world, is a plural name. I learned last week from a lovely teacher, Brian Arnell, that as this breath of Elohim began the creation of our world, so came into being the holy presence of relationship. Though I wrote this chapter in 2005 without an awareness of the plurality of Elohim and relationship, I realize and share now with awe how story will write itself and reveal its meaning in a time which has no time, and will hold what we long for and cherish if we will only open to it and look and trust its loving answers. Listen for the wind. They were walking in the early morning along the path that curved through the woods near the castle, her small hand in his much larger one. Leander was instructing Alida about the plants along the way. This one was called Selichot. It could be made into a tea which eased the headache. And this little berry-colored white was called Hyderia. It was fine for making sweet jams and pies. Alida looked down from the soft, shiny white berries to the earth, and she stopped, for she saw a tiny shrew lying under the leaves of the bush. The shrew was very still. The child picked it up gently, gently. It did not move. The shrew was no longer alive. Alida cradled it in her hands. It was still warm and soft and beautiful to her. She held the little animal close to her heart. Tears welled up in her young eyes. She offered the little creature to her teacher. Make it well again so that it can run once more. Make it come back, Leander. I cannot, my love, answered the master. But you can do anything. I know. I have seen you change the colors of the flowers against the castle wall. I have seen you command without words the rabbits to come and take food from our hands. Ah, that was to offer the flowers nourishments, and by invitation, the rabbits desire to be fed. No one, though, Alida, may invite a thing no longer alive to return. It was the shrew's time to conclude. The shrew is nonadine, dead. It would be harmful to try to bring it back again. It is not the way. At these words, the child burst into tears. How cruel this realm of Leneda is. I will not live in such a realm with such a story. I will not weave such stories of nonadine with my life. How do you know you will not? Asked the teacher. You must indeed, when you hold Leneda's true meaning in your heart. In response to him, the child turned away. The master bent down and took gently from her still open hands the small animal. We must put this empty house back into the ground now, Leander said. Alida wept openly as they buried the little creature. How do I hear my joy in the dark of my soul, she sobbed. The teacher did not answer, but he held her, and she was quieted. As they were walking along the path through a field the following morning, Alida stopped. Speak to me of joy, Leander, said the child. I want you to answer my yesterday's sorrow. Please, please, Leander. It must be the morning's lesson. And she raised her small face up to him. The answer, Alida, is simple but not easy, said the teacher to his little disciple. Come and let us continue to walk. Do you feel the sun on your forehead now? Oh, yes, said the child. I do. How does it feel? Warm. Does it bring you joy, he asked. It does, Leander, of its own kind. Now, Alida, and he put his hand on her shoulder, take a breath and feel the sun and recall the shrew. And the child stopped in her walking, her heart aching, she shuddered. Though your heart feels cold, let the sun warm you, child. She nodded. Then she frowned. But the sun will not warm me when it storms or snows, or there are many clouds or even fog. I need a voice to teach me, she replied. You would like a voice? Leander asked. Yes, I must have a voice, said Alida. Then listen. Alida stopped, she closed her eyes, and she heard the birds singing around them, and she smiled. Listen to the birds, taught her master, whose joyful music comes each morning and through the day and even in the twilight. The birds remind us that we are not alone and that each day is a song. The child thought a moment, and then she said, I hear the birds now, Leander, but what, oh what, if there might come a time when I am grown, that the village sounds are louder than the bird songs? Or what if there might come a time when all the birds will fly away, all of them like the shrew has done? What then, Leander? Or what if, when I become old, I become deaf or so deeply sad that I cannot hear beyond myself and so cannot find my joy? The wise master looked at his young charge, older by far than her 6 years, and felt this daughter's ardent call to life and light. And he saw the terrible challenge of her destiny written across her heart. He stopped on the path and knelt down on one knee. He bowed his head and then looked into her clear eyes. Remember when I am gone, Alida. Remember to listen for the wind. Listen for the wind. Thank you.
Good evening. This time last year, I also spoke to you via Zoom for Selichot. And yet, this year is different. I'm in person at the Bayit this year with real people here in the building, in addition to all of you at home. Last Rosh Hashanah, we were still dreaming of a vaccine, and now a majority of us are fully vaccinated. I don't know if I am now more comfortable with living in a pandemic. I don't know if I want to be more comfortable with it. The changes we have made and the adjustments we have adjusted to have been vast. And where are we now? Well, here we are, Selichot 5781, soon to be 57, 82, asking ourselves, in all of this, where can wisdom be found? The internet defined for me wisdom as knowledge and experience paired with good judgment. I like this idea very much. It fits with my personal definition of wisdom as well. So, I turn 47 next month. And why is my birthday relevant to tonight's event, you ask? Well, because 47 feels like a substantial number to me. It's a number that says 3 years to 50, and you've likely lived half your years already, and you're supposed to know something by now. Why do you keep doing all this dumb stuff? In short, 47 sounds like the age where one should be wise. And as wisdom is our topic this evening, I find myself asking, am I wise? Do I have good judgment? Or am I just risk-averse and afraid to try new things? And is being risk-averse a sign of good judgment? In which case, I must be quite wise. Or maybe I'm just scared, calcified, and outdated. Friends, it's exhausting being me. Wisdom has always seemed to be the province of older folk who know things. Their sagacious pronouncements and meaningful comments about life are supposed to make things easier for the rest of us. Our elders are supposed to know about suffering and help the rest of us avoid it, or at least live through it with more ease. As I get closer to the age at which I've always imagined wisdom would magically come upon me, I am certain that I am different now from my younger years. I am more confident and more kind, and surprisingly, I find myself to be more creative and more open to new ideas than in younger years. I've marinated in a thick brine of time and experience, and like the well-cooked but not overcooked brisket some of you will be enjoying over the holidays, I like to think that my tough, youthful exterior has given way to a softer and more juicy self. I am much more delicious now than I was in my younger years, when I was hustling for acceptance and yearning for self-love. And with this aging, this new juiciness I have gained, there has been an unraveling as well. The things I thought were true in my 20s and 30s are revealed to be subjective and faulty. I've had to adjust my thinking to accommodate new ideas and truths as they come to light. Does that make me wise? No idea. So, where can wisdom be found? Better yet, where can stability be found? The answer to that one is easy: nowhere. And maybe that is wisdom too. To know there is no solid ground, no right answer, no one single interpretation of an event that can encompass the complexity of its consequences. This pandemic has been like that, hasn't it? We have had to balance the incredible connectivity and flexibility of virtual events and meetings and the joys of working from home, with knowing that millions of people are getting sick and dying from COVID-19 around the world. The incredibly fast movement of global governments to address this threat has been nothing short of astonishing, hasn't it? As COVID circled the globe again and again, the interconnectivity of our world and the collective will of world leaders to address the pandemic forced a sea change in the way we socialize and work and play. The fourth wave we are now in is fueled by a variant that likely formed in a country where there is deep social inequality. Could this have been prevented had the government of that country and of all countries recognized that ensuring that all of Earth's citizens have equal access to health care and vaccines protect not only the people of that nation, but also protects ourselves? We are citizens of Earth now more clearly than ever before. Rosh Hashanah is upon us, the birthday of the planet. We imagine at this time of year that the world is created anew. On this birthday, what gifts does the planet need from us? I'd like to think that what the planet could use this year is what it has always needed from us. For us, especially those of us in privileged nations, to use our vast human knowledge and experience and our occasional good judgment to act in the planet's best interests, which of course match our own. For her birthday, let us insist Earth's elected leaders treat climate change as the global emergency it is. The urgency of this pandemic has shown us that urgency works. And the collective will of global leaders and citizens can vastly change the trajectory of society. The tides are changing, but it is slow. Powerful decision makers need to hear from us that we want them to apply the same urgency to this issue as to the tiny virus that changed the world. Where can wisdom be found? Is it in our holy books? Is it in our elders, our elected leaders, or in the natural world? Is it in our beloved children, or our pets, or in self-help books? The truth is, I don't know where wisdom can be found, or what it is, or even who has it. What I do know, what I think I know, is that we can't wait to find the answer to that question. Our tradition is helpful here. Pirkei Avot reminds us, you are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. So, at this time of year, and as we move into the rest of the year, choose to do good now. Choose to make your best decisions now. And whether you are lobbying government, or marching in a protest, or planting fruit trees, or adding solar panels to your home, or deciding that, like me, you will buy only used clothing or household appliances from now on, do it now, and do as much as you can with urgency. With the same urgency by which you adapted to Zoom meetings and face masks and social distancing. Wisdom is ephemeral and intermittent from what I've seen, but as we've learned, action taken in community is incredibly powerful. This Rosh Hashanah, I hope that you will contemplate doing something different and risky and outside of your comfort zone on behalf of our fellow Earthlings on this miracle of a planet whose birthday we celebrate this coming week. Thank you, and Shana Tova.
Thanks again, Rabbi Hannah and Alex, for organizing, and thanks, Alex, for reading first draft. Really appreciate it. So I've always found inspiration in the natural world, in the forests and the mountains of the beautiful area that we live in. And over the past few years, I've been training to become a forest ecologist, and so as I learn more about these coastal forests, the more and more inspiration I've been taking from them. But the truth is, I'm a bit skeptical about this idea of learning wisdom from nature, about the idea of being able to learn how to structure human society or live our lives, because nature is beautiful, it's powerful, but I think it's amoral. It's not good, it's not evil, it's just there. So for me, nature it's more about the space, the meditative space, where we could go and deepen our thoughts and clarify our thoughts that way. But over the past couple of years, I've found actually that as I'm spending time in the forest, I've begun to read in my own background and my own thoughts back into the forest and creating the sort of synthesis of the human and the natural. And so the 6 poems here are some of the results from that. So the first one, appropriately enough, is called Selichot tonight, and they wrote it exactly 1 year ago tonight. Does the universe sit in judgment or require that we arrive early to plead a cause? Yet midnight, alone at the dock, I stand before the King who sits on his throne of mercy. The day of rest ended, the season of prayer begins. To be spent at a research forest, beseeching fungi and mistletoe that slowly drain the life from trees, as numerous as the stars or the sand on the shore. We and the trees, living organisms that don't live forever. El Melech Yoshev al Kisei Rachamim. Does the universe sit in judgment or require that we arrive early to plead a cause? Yet at midnight, alone at the dock, I stand before the King who sits on his throne of mercy to ask for an end to pandemic and fires. The empty lake and cedars respond, Amen. So that was I spent the entire Tishrei at a month-long forestry field school at Maple Ridge. So. The next one is called Vine Maple 2. And it was a sequel to a Vine Maple 1. Here I am again at dusk, visiting the vine maples. This time with leaves unfurling, seraphim of light, emerald light, in their thousands, fulfilling a purpose beyond me. As I walk on, the sky lightens, and it is no longer dusk, but dawn, and an early morning fog rises high in the canopy. The next poem is called Nursery Log, and in it I sort of try to describe the way the hand tefillin is wrapped 7 times around the arm. And in the Kabbalistic tradition, the 7 times symbolizes the 7 emotional sfirot, from chesed to malchut, from kindness to royalty or kingship, which is also denotes the more passive receiving sphira. And the idea of the head tefillin and the hand tefillin is also this connection of the head and the heart. So this is Nursery Log. Western hemlock's thick roots drape the sides of a red cedar nursery log, wrapping its substrate 7 times. Love, severity, compassion, perseverance, compromise, connection, receptivity. And when the log returns to the forest floor from which it came, the roots will remain suspended above the ground, connecting the head to the heart. So it's very common for Western hemlock, a very common tree here, to grow out of decaying wood. And because Western red cedar decays very slowly, because it has microbial properties of the wood, it's very common to see these large red cedar logs on the floor with hemlocks, sometimes even in a row, growing out of it. And the way, as it decays, sometimes the roots are left standing like stilts. So this idea of the roots wrapping themselves around the log made me think of the wrapping of the building. The next poem is called Ponderosa Pine, and it's the only one that takes place not in coastal BC, but in the interior. And it was also a previous field school. Pinus ponderosa, 3 long needles, bright green, cones with sharp pricks. The bark thick and plated in orange-brown hues, dark fissures between. I found a piece sloughing off an old giant, its surface metallic, thin plates layered and pressed to form its thickness, helping the tree survive fire, charred bark dissolving gray on the fingers, healthy within. The pine grows on the slopes of the mountainous western states, extending a finger into Canada's Okanagan, where we searched for woodpecker feeding holes and pine beetle exit wounds as we studied the effects of healing fires, injury still fresh, 5 years old, cracks in the charring and oozing pitch. The older scars, decades old, on hill slopes above camp, showed windows of bare sapwood and bark creeping, curving over to hide the past. A short time before dusk, I climbed a hill, following the line of gold and fire-red aspens to sing, "Come, my beloved, towards the bride to receive the face of Shabbos." Red and gold disappeared as the skies darkened, by whose word dusk settles and the constellations turn, who created day and night and rolls away light from before darkness and darkness from before light. And when my prayers were done, I returned to the world of warm student dining hall, strewn with beer cans and cutlets. So the second to last poem is called Ancient of Days, and it takes place in Brothers Creek in West Vancouver, just below Cypress. Walking above the gorge of Brothers Creek, I came across, sitting on its throne of glory, the Ancient of Days. Its roots reach down into bedrock, and its branches to the sky. And running up and down its spine, I saw myriad epiphytes, photosynthetic and tuned to the sun. And the Ancient of Days, for it was a western red cedar, whispered in the fading light, "Write." And so I wrote, "May it be your will that your spirit dwell amongst us forever." And the last poem also takes place in Brothers Creek, and it's called Darkness to Light. For one opposite the other has God made, living forests and forests of klippa, a shell of their true self. Monotonous rows of stagnated hemlocks, the understory bare, brown as far as the eye can see. But climb to 700 meters and the living forest returns. Mature Douglas fir, western red cedar, amabilis fir, western hemlock. A little higher, mountain hemlock, yellow cedar. And shrubs and herbs, blueberry, devil's club, bunchberry. Brothers Creek flows over boulders, cascades, falls. There is green, there is light, mottled sunspots. Deer have nibbled the tops of every shrub. A brief visit, and then we descend. Collect the sparks, raise them to their source, 10 returning to 10. Tikkun. Thin the stands, let in the light. The understory will flourish. Advanced regeneration, epicormic buds, brown to green. Li'tapcha chashocha l'nahora, transform darkness to light, from sea to mountain. Thank you.
So my talk, I entitled this, Searching for Wisdom. They're all gone. Jack, Maish, Sylvia, my mama and papa, Bubby, I, Golda, at the age of 90, am the only one left of my family of origin. I'm the Omega generation, the last letter of the Greek alphabet. I remember so vividly the sweetness of family togetherness, extended family visits, our tight-knit community, how I loved them and felt loved by them, their vitality, their enduring values, their struggles and losses and successes, their remarkable resilience. They're a deep part of me. They were the heroes of a bygone era. We didn't always like each other. Our egos and limited perceptions got in the way. We argued, quarreled, and at times even shunned each other. We were imperfect human beings. But we were there for each other. We were our brother's keeper. Our rituals flowed as naturally as breathing. They provided the glue to the community. I recall the struggles of the hotel business, all the accompanying financial precariousness and attendant worries. I reveled in the momentous historical events, the pain of the Depression years, the horrors of World War II, the optimistic expansiveness of the post-war era. It was a time of great change. My mama used to say, I've lived from a time of gaslit streets to Sputnik in space and a man on the moon. Havel, Hevel, Hakol Havel, Ecclesiastes. Everything is but a passing wisp of air, a wind, a spirit. Now, at the age of my beloved grandmother, I have suffered losses, traveled new roads, faced large and small challenges, and experienced joy. My Buddhist friends would tell me, change is the only thing you can count on. So what have I learned? What have I learned? If everything is insubstantial, if everything is constantly changing, if the past is gone and we can never know the future, if all we ever have is only the present, the only goal left for humans is to find joy in the very present moment. To be present is to say, Hineni, here I am. To defeat feeling separated, disconnected, and invisible is to say, Hineni, I am here. When we say the blessing who has given us life, sustained us, and brought us to this very moment, Shehechianu v'kimanu v'higiyanu l'zman hazeh, We bless this very moment. Imagine having a blessing for mindfulness. I have learned that our choices are often not what they seem to be. Sometimes they're the best of several good choices. Sometimes they're the lesser of two evil ones. Sometimes our heads tell us one thing and our hearts tell us something else. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish between fear and courage, avoidance and endurance, or regret and determination. How fortunate I have been to live long enough to become aware and understand the mistakes of my headstrong youthful opinions, my self-affirming, judgmental ways. I deeply regret the pain I caused my mother by my accusations and my rejections. My bubby grandmother was right. I'm blessed to have lived long enough to give and receive love from my generous-hearted mother. In the latter years, we took so much pleasure in merely being with each other, talking together, singing, holding hands. I dread to think of what it might have been if I had died before I'd reached that degree of maturity, that emotional individuation from parent-child relationship. Dismayed at the very thought of it, I might have left her with much unresolved pain and anguish. Thank God I was given the time to mature and understand more deeply the mysterious workings of the other and to love more fully, more humbly, with a deep sense of gratitude. I'm so grateful to have been given so many years. It gave me the time to accumulate knowledge and gain understanding, which together have given me wisdom, chokhmah. What is wisdom? I believe that old age can be a time of truth, a time to turn off the chatter of daily life and discover the vital inner life. There are inner voices and outer voices. The outer voices may be the voices of friends, family, and community influences. But the inner voice comes from the deep inner core, which is our essential self. To achieve wisdom, sometimes you must travel through a journey towards self-knowledge, to accept life as it is and not simply as we wish it to be, to see life in its wholeness. Wisdom is an awareness of that kind of wholeness. I believe that to achieve a sense of spiritual well-being and inner peace, you must accept who you are, warts and all. I'm learning how to forgive myself and others. I've made peace with most of my hurts, struggles, and profound losses. Truly, there is much goodness in the world. It's all around us, but one must open oneself up to actually see and value it. I feel truly blessed for the joys, delights, and loves that I have known and continue to know. I'm more aware of those sacred moments when the sheer joy of being alive fills me with wonder and delight. And at such moments, I can sense that I am an integral part of the entire cosmos. Wisdom. Wisdom is impossible for me to define. I can only begin to approximate its depth. Wisdom is something like to become aware of how beguiling and seductive self-righteous indignation can be. To search between the black and white amid the grays for the real story, for truth or truths. To search for the compassionate heart knowledge and understanding deeply embedded in those rational cerebral understandings. To recognize the power of unhealthy ego needs that dominate our choices. To wholeheartedly embrace uncertainty, even though it is fearsome. To doubt. Like the ancient two-faced Roman god Janus, looking both backwards and forward. I look forward to my grandchildren and great-grandchildren. They bring me hope and joy. I ask myself, what offerings can I bring them? What legacy can I leave? To document our roots, to acknowledge the shoulders upon whom we all stand, to understand how they all came about, puny people with gigantic egos, and at the same time, they had a sparkling vitality, huge hearts of courage, and deep love and compassion for others. Hopefully, the next generation will be able to understand their continuity, their place in the long chain of people and events. I want to affirm their vision, their energy, and their inspiring dedication to build a harmonious, more just, and loving world. Thank you.
In 1992, I journeyed to Lithuania and was able to visit the birthplace of my maternal grandparents. This birthplace was the village of Plunyan, or Plunj. As a result of the Holocaust, all the Jews in Plunyan had either fled or been killed. On arrival, I met the sole Jewish survivor, Mr. Bunker. Mr. Bunker had survived the war by joining the Russian army. On his return to Plunyan, he discovered the loss of his family and the other Jewish inhabitants. He made the decision then not to leave, but to become the keeper of Jewish history for Plunyan. He created a small museum on the upper balcony of the former synagogue and persuaded the municipality to restore the Jewish cemetery. He discovered that Jewish tombstones had been vandalized and used to pave the roads. He was a sculptor and sculpted the faces and bodies of family members in the tree trunks in a nearby forest where many Jews had been rounded up, shot, and then buried in a group grave. On my father's side, he was born in Jerusalem in the Mea Shearim in 1924. His father and grandfather were also born there and came from a line of rabbis and rabbinical students dating back to their attendance at the yeshiva of the Chotem Sofer in Pressburg, now Bratislava, in the 1800s. Where I'm from. Ancestors. I am from Lithuanian forests shrouded in mist, high cheekbones and chopped herring, village streets with tombstone cobbles, leading to human faces carved into forest oak. I am from soil and silent tree. I am from yeshiva students of Torah, learning with the Chotem Sofer, writer of halachic rules, from Pressburg to East Galicia, from Jerusalem to Johannesburg. I am from bushy black eyebrows, studying Kabbalah in secret back rooms. I am from back pain and grandparents, rewarding school marks with Nestle chocolates, disc-shaped and wrapped in silver. Lithuania. The only time I saw this woman, she was half standing, arms raised like wings. She was naked, as was the group of women huddled around her on the forest floor. In spite of the blurriness and angle of the photograph, I could see that her face was calm, peering into the distance. To the left was the edge of a grave. To the right, partly obscured by trees and bushes, were Nazi soldiers cradling guns. They were relaxed and smoking cigarettes. Some were standing, while others reclined with their backs against trees. This from a photograph taken covertly by partisans in a forest in Lithuania, 1944, only months before the end of the war. This story, I want this story out of my head. It smells of burning flesh, chokes like blue smoke, rings in my skull like the chant of Kaddish. Until then, I will grab your house. I'll sit in your garden. I'll take whatever I want until you say you love me and don't want me dead and don't want me drowned in the sea. That is where I'm from. The story in my head, never ending, stoking my furnace. But I won't put you in an oven or gas you in a room or make you dig a hole, shoot you in the head and push you in. Thank you. What is wrong with them? Like he was doing exercise. But why did you tell me? I did, Cecil. I don't understand.
Thanks. Sorry. I guess it's good I was muted for a minute because I just need a moment after that reading. Thank you, Cecil. Um, um, and thank you to everyone who's made this wonderful reading happen. This event. It's been sort of a lifeline for me this past year to have these Koreh readings, and so thanks, Rabbi Hannah, and everyone, and especially thanks to Alex this time for your editorial wisdom. I am not a poet, but I appear to have written something that is like a poem. So it's called Capsize and Re-Entry, and it's dedicated to Tilly, my neighbor, friend, and kayak buddy, and in memory of C. 1. July 2021, 9 a.m. We sat together on the grass, waiting for the class to start. That was the first thing. No, first we found parking. No, before that, we drove over the bridge. Wait, first we woke up, early, met outside our building, put on our masks, stepped into the small elevator, rode to the parking lot. Before that, though, we found the website, checked all the boxes, signed the waiver, paid good money to fall into cold water on a Sunday morning. 2. Before that. Like everyone, we did what we could to stay afloat. Baked and cooked and sang and sewed, watched stories till our eyes glazed over, picked blackberries, walked labyrinths, looked for beauty in small, close things. Learned songs to wash our hands to, shouted into checkerboard screens, refreshed our phones waiting for the numbers, then did what we could to forget them. 3. Even before that. The before times, we call it. First, tongue-in-cheek, making light of the dystopian story we could write. Then, forgetting we were ever ironic. Back in that dreamy time, what did we do? Did we really pack suitcases, hop on planes, cross borders? Did we run to hug each other at parties, dance and sweat in big dark rooms? Dozens of us, with all our naked faces? I guess we must have. Right, anyway. 4. After a year. We learned to kayak, always together, in case one of us should tip over into the grotty waters of False Creek. So the other can do what exactly? We're not sure. It's a blur what would happen then. We want it clear, want to learn the exact steps, want the wisdom in our bones, want to know, really know, how to rescue ourselves. 5. The week before. I'm scared, I confessed, as we dipped our paddles into the swirl of murk, heading again for the Canby Bridge, trying to maneuver close enough to talk without colliding. Unintentional rafting, we like to crow. It's the lesbian move. I've been to Deep Cove, I said. That water's freezing. You considered. I waited for you to reassure me that I don't have to do anything I don't want to. I think it will suck, you said, but we've both done things that suck before, and then it will be over, and we'll know how. I drifted without rafting, watched a gang of geese pecking at grass on the shore. How long since I gathered in a flock? Now there are just two of us. We'll be there together, I said. Yes, you said. We can remind each other this is a gift to our future selves. 6. The first thing I understood. After our teacher gathers us under a tree, hands out wetsuits and life jackets, collects our worldly goods in a plastic tub, after we push off from the pebbly beach, 6 baby ducks bobbing along the sun-splashed shoreline, we come to a quiet place, and it's time to learn. Step by step, she shows us what to do. Then it's our turn. I'll go first. He's a big guy, confident, sporty, didn't even want a wetsuit. He tips himself over, falls in perfectly, grabs his kayak, pulls the foam block onto the paddle end, wedges the other end under the bungees, just like the teacher showed us, launches himself back into the boat, wobbles, tries to rebalance, and falls in again. Oh, this is not about getting it always right. We have 7 teachers, not 1. 7. When it's my turn. I can't fall in. It's not the cold. I'm sweating inside my rubber suit. It's the going under on purpose. Everyone watches, 6 pairs of eyes on me, waiting for what I can teach. I sit like a bird in a cupped hand, looking and looking at the dark water. Into the stillness, you tease. If you do it, I'll tell Becca you were brave. Your voice calls the flock to my head. Becca will want to hear the story, and Aaron, and all our friends who know about doing hard, good things. Quick, before another thought flies in, I fling my weight sideways, tip out, bloom into the cool wet, come up spluttering. Remember, let my body rise to the surface. Remember, foam, paddle, bungees. Pull myself back up, fit my legs into the long sleeve of the kayak, lean to the paddle side, let the boat balance itself. Then it's all over but the pumping, water spraying out in celebration. You can tell Becca, I can tell Aaron, I did it, I did it, I did it. 8. 4 years ago, just after the eclipse. It was the first time I'd known someone who tipped herself over into the darkest of dark waters and didn't come back up. In a room lined with benches, a woman stood next to the long wooden box that held her sister. She said, "We want to think we can rescue each other, but we can't. We each have to swim on our own. All we can do is keep each other company." I knew it was true, but now I have a different wisdom in my warm bones. Swimming or paddling in whatever grotty water, we each have to rescue ourselves, okay? But sometimes, if we are very, 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 very lucky. Sometimes that company, the stranger who goes first, the friends who flock invisibly when called, the neighbor who knows how to call them, that company will hold us like a cupped hand, just long enough for us to haul ourselves afloat. Thank you.
Something that I've been immensely grateful for during COVID is the opportunity to study from our home. It's like we are living in a yeshiva sometimes. And during the course of any given week, I try to write a poem that's rooted somehow to the Parsha and the Hebrew calendar. Yesod in the land, Parshat Bahar Bechukotai. Deep within Yesod, there is Sod, a secret, the deep mystery. We are connected below the surface of the land to which we want to belong. The Onondaga Nation, traditionally of the land that is now New York, teach that one can claim belonging to a land when one has made wise decisions embedded in stewardship that protect those to come for the next 7 generations. It's a nice thought, a noble venture. It's something that can warm our hearts and delude our minds as we sit in homes that people immediately outside my door, your doors, our doors, cannot afford so much as a closet within. It's easy to feel woke, even during dreams of dinner out, as we ache for the next vacation, as we accept our COVID shot. After all, we're doing good for our loved ones, our community, our country. It's curious how the answer to who is my neighbor seems to shift in accordance to the comfort of a movable conscience. Is my neighbor the man smelling of urine at the mall? The woman pushing her shopping cart along Main as feces runs down the length of her pants? Is it a woman in India, a man in Nigeria, the children in Brazil? As my own original union steward was wont to say, so what is it that you're willing to give up? Our decisions matter. Our decisions hold consequences, not punishments, consequences. Every single decision matters. While Keter and Tiferet and Yesod and Malchut remain unaligned within me, maybe also within you, our foundation will remain cracking. It will surely crack. Perspective. Matot Masai. Each stands before their own River Jordan, a steady stream of people standing along a narrow edge. Turn our head in any direction and recognize our fellow travelers there. There was a man yesterday in the graveyard where I was eating my sushi lunch in the near quiet of the street. I have autism, he says. I will probably say too much. His mother was buried 10 days ago. He was returning from an interview with our national paper. His mother was an eminent feminist scholar, a woman in charge, an Order of Canada recipient. She chose from the roster of physicians who would serve in her maid. She wanted a woman, he said, consistent with a solid life's work. In the finest detail, one talent of such a mind, he calculated the time following the final of her 4 medications, comfort enough to sing her over. In rousing baritone, a man with his beard in 2 unequal braids, a homemade walking stick, a couple of necklaces, and a few too many bracelets, pants tucked into rubber boots on a dry and warm summer's day, Pacific Ocean glinting between sentinels of trees, he sang to me the sea shanty of his mother's last and eventual wave. Elul, I am for my beloved, and my beloved is for me. Shaftim. The king awaits, tangible as the flowers of the field, displayed in forms of golden illumination, heart-shaped, dappled hue, on the tree trunk facing me. And with my back up against another in a garden named after a queen. I have come to immerse, as I had for years, a Jewess in a suburban home rendered near complete, bathing in a rainforest, to this new to us place of healing amongst the cedars. A special embrace is shared. Cradled by a branch of a deciduous tree, near seamlessly enfolded by solid conifer trunk, you are pointing out symbiotic, synergistic relationship between 2 trees inextricably linked together. It happened while we marveled in silence, a steady stream of tiny ants, ever so close, then diverging, an army's worth of avoidance of your outstretched right hand. Bodily nefesh bows as a breeze of ruach blows a question softly enough to make the tips of my feathers quiver. Whom do I want to be with? A still small voice answers, Baruch Hashem, my lover is always, as always, right here.
ואיזה מקום בינה, וחוכמה מאין תימצא, ואיזה מקום בינה, איזה מקום בינה, והחוכמה מאין תימצא, ואיזה מקום בינה, והחוכמה מאין תימצא, ואיזה מקום בינה, איזה מקום בינה. הן יראת אדוני היא חוכמה, וסור וסור יראת אדוני היא חוכמה, וסור וסור מרב בינה.
I'd like to thank all of our readers who shared their work tonight, and I was honored to read everyone's pieces that were sent to me ahead of time. And I hope that, and thank you everyone here who's here today, and I enjoyed every single one of the readings. There's so much to think about, all the richness from what you've shared. And I hope that you all come to our next Koreh, and hopefully we'll be able to gather in person again. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, Leslie, for collaborating on all of our Koreh enterprises. And thank you, Wendy Rubin, for coordinating tonight's music. Thank you to Dave Kaufman on tech, sound, and visuals, with Layla Hogan, new member of Or Shalom, on the camera, and Linda Peretz and Sally Thorne, who are our Zoom Shamashim. Also, thank you to Harriet Frost and Dave Kaufman for the liturgy that's about to come, and to Martin Gottfried and Wendy Rubin for our musical interludes. We're grateful to Jane Willichuk and her son Adrian, and to Linda Peretz and Kathy Brandon, who lovingly changed our Torahs from their colorful weekly garb to their whites for the upcoming holidays. And we're always grateful to Tracy Fagg and Shelley Stein-Watton for seeing to all the details. Our next high holiday offering is our Kabbalah Chag on Erev Rosh Hashanah, available on YouTube from 5 o'clock onward on Monday evening, September 6th. Shana Tova U'Metuka to everyone, and I'd like to ask those here in the Bayit and those at home to please rise as you're able for the 13 attributes, and then for our foreshadowing of Kol Nidre to close our evening.
Adonai, Adonai, Hey Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Nutzer Chesed la'alafim, Nosei Avon v'Fesha v'Chata v'Nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Nosei Avon v'Fesha v'Chata v'Nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Nosei